Dude, we need an intro. Add that to the long list of things that we need to do.
It's like the longer the list gets, the less that gets done.
Yes. Because I'm tempted to throw our intro into that ad generator.
What is it? What is that?
It's like I sent it to you. You can promote your podcast. We need 40 seconds.
We just need to make a promo?
Yep.
Okay. Well, we could just cut together a bunch of saucy bits.
Saucy Bits. I'm your host, Whitney Bits.
And I'm your host, Rubbish Bits. And we're the twin bits.
We're the twin bits. We're the yin and bit and the yang bit. I am, once again, raw dogging this episode. I promise someday when my workload is less.
Never.
And I'm working through my mental clarity lately. And it's taken up a lot of room on the burner.
You know, I don't think there's anything wrong with raw dogging it.
Dude, it's like episode 12. So, you know, it's not like we've been doing this a long time.
I did notice that I had to like jack up my sound and jack down your sound when I did the last thing.
I've got them both at 0 and I'm going to export them.
I know, but I don't speak as directly and loudly into the mic as you do. But I feel like it's too low for me, so I'm going to fuck with it a little bit. All right, here's
the portion of the podcast where we fuck with the mic stand. You know what? This is probably a good time to mention. I'm going to start, it's called Buy Us a Coffee. And Buy Us a Coffee is just like a fun way that you can throw a couple dollars at us. And those couple of dollars are going to buy us some SM7Bs. It's a beautiful Shure microphone, and I'm going to get the nice stands.
You have an Amazon wish list now?
It's not wishing, it's what's going to happen, because
we don't wish, we manifest.
We demand and we manifest, and I have a clear vision of what microphone and what stand I want. So
hell yeah.
It'll be easy.
Fuck. Hello. Hey. Thank you for watching and listening. We are two little doggies out here in the world, just trying to make sense out of everything that we see and experience.
Was the last pod the dark pod?
The last pod was the dark pod because everything that was surrounding us in the world was very dark.
You know what happened after editing that and revisiting the dark pod is I have been kind of retouching subject matters that were only important to high school Whitney, because they've been locked in a vault and I haven't touched them since.
Yes.
And I'm honoring that wave. And so I've been listening a lot to Greg Graffin interviews, and Greg Graffin is the lead singer of a punk rock band called Bad Religion, and he has a PhD, and it's like he's a biologist, he's a naturalist, he's a scientist, he's a doctor, he has like a dissertation from Harvard. He's just like crazy.
And he thinks religion is the scourge of the earth.
Well, yeah, you can actually buy his thesis, and he talks to a bunch of evolutionary biologists about their belief in God. He asked like 136 scientists if they believed in God, and like 10 of them were like, yeah, I don't know how you can separate science and God, you know. So he kind of like goes into that. But so he never does interviews. I remember waiting to talk to him outside of a Bad Religion show when I was like 17. He's like a diva, right? Lyricist, he says it. He's like, sorry, we don't want to talk to anybody. Leave me alone.
It takes a lot of emotional energy to talk to somebody you don't know, who knows a lot about you and what you've done.
Yeah, I get it. And he is a fucking snarky prick. He's been in a punk rock band for 40 years and he's got all these degrees, so he's allowed to.
He probably makes a lot of assumptions about a 17-year-old girl who wants to talk to him outside of a show.
You know, it's like, yeah.
She could never possibly get it, you know?
That's exactly what he's doing. And he was on this Skeptic podcast, and he's a huge naturalist, and I really vibe with this. He's just like, humans can't impact the damage they've done. This is where we are. This is just what we're doing. He's just observing and embracing everything that we already are. And we have to look at that, observe it, absorb it. And that made me think about two things. One, everything's really fucked up, and we are biased to think that suffering is just so bad, and it's a
natural condition.
I was thinking about the origin of the word cuck. Comes from the bird.
Cuckoo.
Yeah, the cuckoo bird. Because these motherfuckers lay their eggs in another bird's nest.
That's
and
fucked
that
up.
bird, when it hatches, throws all the eggs out.
Yeah, it takes over.
And then the birds continue to feed it, but they also looked confused.
Like, my babies came out weird this go round.
Why is there one big one in my nest? And I was like, that got me. I was like, that is the most imagine.
That is sinister. That is sinister.
Your baby is dead on the ground, but you don't know. And you're feeding this other baby spoonfuls of food.
From your bird mouth, because you've already chewed up like.
You're like, huh? This is weird. I mean, think about that seeping into your household. That is so fucked up.
It's so fucked, but there are a lot of different survival strategies that are really evil. If you want to lump things into good and evil. I mean, anytime there's like a bait and switch like that, I feel like other animals do it too. Or maybe it happens a lot with birds, because there's like the shield of the egg. Like, you don't know for a long time until they come out that you've been, incubating a demon. I don't know, but why cuck? That's what I want to.
So cuck is like, when another dude comes in and steals your lady, he's not throwing the babies out of the fucking nest, but
right?
That is.
But it's like supplanting your position.
Yeah.
It's like, guess what? You're out. Bye. Some people have a cuck fantasy, don't they?
Somebody. Oh, I know who. I won't mention. Was just
give me their name and social security number.
He was just telling me, he was like, dude, did you ever look at when what's a big porn site?
Pornhub
like posts the most. There's a fucking dog breathing.
Oh shit. Behind you. What is that?
Pornhub will post the most searched porn in each region.
Interesting.
In the South,
this would be an interesting metric to look at.
The South is by Rachel.
By Rachel.
I'm hungry. Give me a Rachel. That's literally what I thought of when I said Reuben, Rachel.
But it's got turkey, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I'd eat one right now.
She's hungry.
A biracial cuckolding. Cuckolding?
Yes,
cuckolding.
I think that's the right word.
And I was like, that makes sense. I mean, it's just like any sort of protruding anger is inside out, perversion.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, duh. And he was like, that doesn't like blow your mind. And I was like, no.
The things that you like outwardly hate are actually what you crave and desire. Like, you crave that nearness to the unknown. Like, you fear it, but you like want to get as close to it as possible.
That's fucked.
I wish people could just be more honest with what they actually desire.
I feel like we're getting there, right? It's just like a tool of transparency is the internet and social media, and people are getting popular due to authenticity. And
well, it's interesting that you say that the internet is a tool of transparency when you can go about as someone completely different. Yeah, especially in incognito mode. You could be whoever you want on the internet.
Sure, but you're gonna get a lot more clout.
Clout? Are we chasing clout?
If you're who you are and you're capturing those inner.
Like, it's a sustainable thing if you actually are who you say you are.
Yes.
As opposed to if you create this persona,
a catfish,
that you actually do not embody, then it's going to fall and become your destruction.
The end.
Eventually. Cuck makes me think about a lot of things that
go on.
I don't want to go into too close to my personal history. I was thinking about mac and cheese.
Oh,
macaroni and cheese.
Speaking of cuck, let's talk about mac and cheese.
Well, I was going back to what you were saying about your high school self. I've been kind of thinking about high school Megan too, and how it's prior to my culinary awakening. Like I always loved to make food, but it was mostly like I would come home from school and I would make a box of mac and cheese, like the Food Lion brand. Much better than
Shout out
Kraft.
Food Lion.
Shout out Food Lion. The one by my house turned into a Bloom.
Is that another grocery store?
Yeah, okay. Same shit basically. But I used to eat a box of mac and cheese every day. And
every day? Or every school day?
Every school day. Sometimes, I mean, every day pretty much. And sometimes it would be a frozen pizza. But like, it's just crazy to think like that was my salve. Like that was my comfort. It was my nutrition. And it was basically just like artificially pigmented powder.
It flicks your brain's bean though.
It does. But I haven't had it in so long.
Do you need some Food Lion branded mac and cheese?
Do.
Dude, let's do that.
But like there's a fear inside of me that's like, don't go back to that. Hey. Don't go back to that, because that was like scared Megan. Scared of everything. Very, very like tightly clamped up in my clamshell. And I don't know. I wasn't daring. I wasn't bold. I wore my Brave shirt today because of how important I think it is to take risks. You know, like try something that you haven't done before. I don't know. I'm just sort of going back to the concept of growth and how you can continually grow without losing who you actually are. Like this is something that me and my brother talk about pretty often, how the self is more like an accretion of experiences and memories and, you know, things like that. Because he recently told me that he wanted to reconnect with the person that he committed his crimes with, like his girlfriend of yore, who also used to be my best friend until they started dating, and then I was heartbroken and I like cut myself and like burned myself because I felt so betrayed and depressed. In high school, I used to come home after having my mac and cheese and go up into the bathroom and like sit in the tub with my clothes on and just turn on the shower and just like sit in the water and wish I was dead.
I wish I could go back and put you in like jujitsu.
That's the thing. That's such a good point, because I've been so physically active in the last 5 or 6 months, maybe a year. And when I was that age, I had no hobbies. I played Sims.
And you have so much energy. You are boundless, energized, depression, anxiety. Like you've got...
I feel like it's translating, like my physical activity kind of translates the negative back into positive.
Yes.
And there's like a transformation that happens inside of me when I'm moving, and it makes my mind more clear. And I feel like I'm just unloading on you because we haven't talked in a long time.
That's good.
But like my experience with not smoking weed for like a couple of days, because I've been smoking weed for a decade every day.
You know, let me just interject real quick for anybody listening. There are some stories coming out of people who have been addicted to weed, because in our society it's like, it's just weed, smoke up, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And it's like, no, people are using this as a buffer between them and the shit that they need to get fucking done, and the shit that they need to look at.
Big time.
And it's a buffer for therapy, and it's a fucking poor band-aid. And it's important that people start. It's one thing if you use it, you're like, oh man, I love getting high and watching this movie, but it's like when it becomes every day, you've got a serious fucking problem.
And when you mentioned it on our last podcast, when we were talking about
dabs,
recreational use of opiates and things like that, and then you mentioned that people can get addicted to weed, I was like, oh god damn it, Whitney always makes me look in the mirror and like think about my personal habits and shake them up, like try and change and see if I'm still the same person without those crutches.
I was listening to a podcast with Dr. Drew. His daughter is
that the sex guy or the drug guy?
That's the either one I'm talking about is the sex guy. He's a sex guy, and his daughter, they were on this podcast, and she's like spreading the gospel of weed addiction because it like ruined her life. And she had no idea until she was on this road trip and they had just run out of weed. And suddenly her and her fiance were like having this huge DEFCON 5 meltdown at a gas station, and she started throwing up. It was just like this big thing. But you know, she's like, we just smoked weed every day, like it was just, that's just what we do. And she's like, that is not okay.
It's like a soft place to lay down and not really And I've been thinking about it a lot and trying to be present and aware of all the different changes that come about. Like on Monday, I felt so depressed and just like so fucking toasted and roasted. And I just like laid in my bed and sobbed a little bit. And I have other crutches that I'm going to work on as well.
One at a time. One at a time.
I wrote that down. I was like, okay, let's try this first and not pull all the rugs out from under me all at once.
And maybe you stop weed and you don't have withdrawal symptoms and you're just as productive, and you're just, then maybe you don't have an issue. But if you start noticing
I still really like the way that it like makes me just completely let go when I'm dancing. I like that. Yeah. I'm capable of doing it without being assisted by drugs and alcohol, which I think is important. But I still sometimes would like to kind of indulge, but not use it as like a prescription drug every day. I don't know. I'm still addicted to caffeine. I'm addicted to Bob's Burgers. I'm addicted to my cat Willow. I don't know. There's just a lot of things that I would like to remain constant in my life that I don't think are necessarily negative. But I just wanted to let you know that
that's awesome. I love that.
Brought that to my attention.
I didn't mean to do that. I was just thinking about it, and me and drug awareness stuff. I'm like a big supporter of that, and
but it's like I used to do it whenever I was about to leave my apartment.
Oh.
So like, okay, time to put on my shield and my armor. Like, let me take a big hit and go out into the world and navigate as best I can. But this week, I've just been doing it without that.
And what's that like?
Fine.
Yeah, maybe it's not as scary as
I think that like smoking weed in that way was making me more anxious.
Yes.
It was making me like feel fear but push past it. But now I just don't feel the fear. It's crazy.
Amazing.
So, thank you. And also, she just got me this amulet thing. Oh, she's such a good spiritual guidance.
That store. Oh my God.
Was it Nature's? Where'd you go?
It's called City Alchemist. It's the guy who is the aficionado on religions, and he is a bruja. He's like a.
I wonder if it would
Mexican.
Be a brujo.
I walked into that spot and I get fucking blasted.
Oh, lightning bolts?
Oh my God, in such a good way. You can go into a lot of spiritual foo-foo stores and whatever, and there's some interesting stuff, but that one, he is constantly fucking like charging that. He's got this giant altar. It's super clean. It's like he just puts so much attention into that space that I just like stood there. Ruby laid down on the ground right away and grabbed a book.
Whoa.
She never does that.
She immediately felt comfortable.
Yeah, she just laid down on the ground, grabbed a book, and like put her feet up. It's like, oh, magic. Okay, hi magic. It's just like so strange. And his crystal wall, I'm always like, I'm not gonna be into fucking crystals, and I stand in front of a crystal wall and I'm like, oh my God,
that's amazing.
And so he's got a wall of charms, and he's so specific about what charms he carries it's not a bullshit store. It's like you're going into like this hive that somebody deeply, deeply cares about.
Yeah.
He's got human bones. He's got a big jar of human bones. I don't know. He's like, this is for witchcraft. Here's human bones. I've got a skull. These are vertebrae. And you're just like,
I wonder how he came about possessing those.
I don't know.
I mean, people are dying all the time, but where do the remains go, you know?
He's such a sweet guy. And I could feel him. I'm like, you're fucking blessing me, man. I can feel it. Like,
is it in town?
I can feel him staring at me. Yeah, it's right by Gemelli's.
What's that?
Oh, it's like an Amaro ice cream store. You know where the Whole Foods is downtown of like East? It's right over there.
Oh, I was thinking it was on the east side, like near Rosewood, or no.
Downtown. East downtown.
Like 5th Street?
Yeah.
Got it. That's cool. I would like to pop in over there.
I woke up and was like, Megan needs this. I just went there and got those for you. So hopefully
she's following her heart.
I am. It's easier to listen to it when you're just like this weird small voice that I always bat away in my head. I just go do it.
That is something, isn't it? When we were teaching our big pad thai class last night, I was doing dishes and he had all these people set up at the long table doing knife cuts. And I turned around and I looked at this one guy and he was going really fast. And I was like, he must be really experienced with a knife to be behaving like that.
That's why he's taking a cooking class.
And then 2 minutes later, he cut himself. And I was like, Megan, why don't you give more credence to like those types of thoughts? It's almost like I don't know how to translate my own intuition.
You've spent your entire life ignoring it.
Right. So in that moment, if I had like gone over to be like, hey, you seem to be wielding that knife pretty recklessly, like, would he still have cut himself?
No.
You know?
No, because you would have disrupted the reckless vibe.
Because I didn't look at anybody else. I wasn't concerned about anybody else's behavior. And I, like, my body was positioned away from them. And I just turned around and I was like, that guy's something not good. And so he didn't participate for the rest of the class because he hurt himself so bad.
Was it bad?
I never saw it, but Aaron said that he like diagonally cut off part of his finger. But I have a picture of this dude like holding the knife like this on his cutting board, just like showing off.
Yeah, and now he's showing off how much of a fucking dickhead he is.
We don't have people hurt themselves very often.
That's the first story I've heard.
Yeah. I've only ever seen one person like nick himself. But this guy was... I always tell people when they pick up the knife, banish fear from your heart because it'll make you sort of slip and be kind of anxious, but move with caution, you know? Don't move with haste. There's no reason to do it fast if you don't know what you're doing. But also, even when you do know what you're doing, I prefer to go slow because I take pleasure in food preparation.
I don't think I've ever seen out of all the cooks I've worked with and nobody chop anything fast.
The fast chopping, I have always felt is just kind of like, if that's how you feel comfortable doing it, by all means, do your thing. But to me, there's just no reason to whip it like that. But that said, I don't work in a professional kitchen that serves 500 covers a day.
You have.
I have, and it made me not want to cook anymore.
It's awful.
Well, I think that some people need that like soldier go to battle type lifestyle. That's why there's a lot
of vets in the kitchen.
Right, exactly. But I like to do it sort of in a meditative way. I really enjoy using my knife to cut things. So I don't want to do it in sort of a harried, like, gotta get this done. Oh, that shit's burning. Oh God, I gotta go stir this. Oh fuck, I gotta pick this up. You're like, this is burning. You know, it's like, I'd rather enjoy myself. I like to play. I don't know if you guys know this about me by now. I love playing.
Megan's middle name is Play.
I learn a lot from play, and I feel like I express myself through play. So I don't know. It's just like this long journey of getting to know yourself, and I'm getting there.
And it's like removing weed allows you to water parts of yourself that weed was watering with not water, you know?
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I still like smoke weed. I still like it, but it's not like something that I need to be me. You know?
God, no. Here's what happens when I smoke weed. Smoke weed. This has happened so many times, and it is starting to compulsively make me not smoke weed because it's so scary. I smoke weed, and suddenly I'm in my grandmother's head, and my grandma has dementia, and she's been in assisted living, and I'm just in the dark wondering why no one visits me.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I get so tapped into a lot of really dark places or a lot of really intense places.
I wonder if it like loosens up whatever sort of attachment you have to your body and just like flings you out, like astrally projects you without your permission, just like
I lay in the dark and I go.
Oh, did you see Being John Malkovich?
Oh, it's been a long time.
It's sort of like that. You like go into John Malkovich or something. That's wild. Yeah, when I sit down to edit, like if I know I want to sit and edit for like 4 hours, I'll smoke weed and like make some tea, and I just like laser focus into that. But I do think that I'm gonna stop just doing it if I'm gonna go out into the world and run errands and stuff. I don't know. It depends. But I think besides you like bringing up the cautionary, like don't be addicted to stuff kind of talk, when I started riding my bike on the roads, I wanted to be fully present and fully aware, just so I can feel comfortable like navigating with all these cars and people who never go the speed limit and don't look for bikes and stuff. So it was out of my own sense of safety and like being ready for whatever is gonna come. I was like, I'm not gonna smoke before I go on this bike ride. But respect to anybody who does and who wants to, because you have to decide for yourself what's right, you know?
Well, and where it's, you just have to look at it. Is it inhibiting or is it helping?
Right.
Or is it, yeah.
So I think it's not banished from my life.
And it shouldn't be.
But I think that
there's
I
a time
will
and a place
take it
for it
in different ways at different times, you know?
Intuition is the biggest fucking safety tool on a bicycle or motorcycle. It has saved me countless times.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because you can't grow that deliberately, or can you?
Can only hone it. I mean,
right.
You can only sharpen it and hone it and feel it when you're on the road, especially in some place, you know, it's like in Minneapolis or in Baltimore. It's just like slower going, but down here it's just all highway, and it's because things are so spread out and it's very vast, so it's a little bit different navigating a 45-mile-an-hour road on a bicycle versus a 30.
It's been super fun so far. I keep thinking like I am going to fall one day and hopefully I'll get back up, you know?
I've never fallen on my bike.
Oh, well, I fell on your bike.
You fell on my bike. You had a toddler. That took me a few days to get used to.
Yeah, I didn't
different.
really account for how top heavy it would
it's
be.
Weird.
And I fell because I was throwing my body under her.
Thank you.
I was like, no, the baby.
Because that's my biggest fear, is just like,
I know,
leaving you with something that's like dangerous.
At all costs, I will protect this child. She's the future and the present and the past in weird ways.
Yeah, the past too.
So did you have any foods as a child that were a salve, like sort of a comfort? Have you ever taken comfort in food? Or where do you seek comfort when you crave it? Like when you need a pat on the head or a hug? Do you ever need those kinds of things?
You are making me dissociate from my body. So I'm going to go with, I mean, I like comfort foods, but I don't think I ever, I mean, it's like the thing that has followed me my entire life is like cheese and crackers. I'm like, it's like the thing I thought about when I was in school and I was ready to go home and eat it, because it's like soft texture with crunchy. It's just like the ideal scenario.
Hell yeah. Cheese and crackers is the best. But also, when you introduced me to French onion dip, I had never had that before.
Like, you want some French onion dip? And you were like, what are you talking about?
What is it?
It's like,
oh my God. What is it? Sour cream?
I watched your life change. It's so fucking good. Like, and you got to do less. I do Greek yogurt instead of sour cream.
Mm-hmm. But the tangy dairy is what's
the
key.
Tangy dairy. Like, the more soup mix, less dairy. Like, you want it to be a fucking salt bomb.
You want it to hit.
You want it to hit.
Oh my God. My stomach's growling now.
I don't have any. What's wrong with me? Lucas's sisters called it 911 dip because they needed it. They're like, we need it right now.
It's literally sour goat.
So its official name is 911 dip.
Heard. I'm gonna make a note of that. I wrote down tangy dairy 911 dip. And right below that, I have an arrow, and it says a layered dip. And then it says, good morning, Megan. And then my brother called, so I didn't get to write myself a good morning note. And then I wrote mac and cheese.
Slam!
Boom, baby.
Trying to think if I have talking to dead people updates. I am getting to this space, so like I can meditate and get sucked into the sphincter pretty quickly now.
Whose sphincter?
The sphincter.
Oh, the big
shit,
one.
the big sphincter.
The one we were all pooped out of.
The poop socket. And when I get there, this last time was like close up of teeth, like animal teeth, and then like zoomed out and it was a snake. And then it like goes down the snake, and then it just like was transforming into all these animals. And the practice right now is to not think about it or decipher it or symbolize it or attach
just sort of let it wash over you.
And there's always this part of me that like this fucking caveman gnome that jumps in and goes, wieners! You know, it's like there's some funny part of my brain that wants to fuck it up really bad and like pervert it. And I could hear that Whitney just like screaming like, it's a bunch of dicks! It's a bunch of pussies! And I'm just like, what the fuck is wrong with me? And it was so funny. I was like, well, I think that's the Whitney. Sure, I'm sure there's like primordial hormonal things.
Yeah.
Or, you know, I have OCD after having a baby. That's like this habitual, like, butt cheek slapper part of me. But I also think that's like fucked up from society. I feel like that's a societal, like, conditioned. It's the antithesis of sacred. It's like, it's fucking profane. And it feels like, and I tune into that. It was just so funny because I was having like this really cool thing, but it just like, and then the visual would kind of shift because it's being disrupted. And then I would tell the jackass Whitney to just like, shut up. Like, stop it. You're killing my fucking vibe right now. And it was kind of like staticky. Like, it almost feels like, you know, part of the virus of humanity and our growth is like this.
I have a
violence
question.
on the TV and porn on the TV and that sort of stuff.
Is that someone that you want to bring into the fold and give a massage and bathe?
Well, I should do that because I'm just like, will you stop ruining every time I get into this space, you're just screaming. It's like, what do you need?
It reminds me of that like very old trope of like the angel and the devil on the shoulders.
Oh yeah.
I don't know why we always go back to this like dualistic view of
so
it's like dicks, cocks, dicks.
So
your mother sucks cocks in hell.
I've got butt cheek slapper, and then like who's the other one? Just centered, I guess. Like it doesn't have to be.
I think it would have to be further to the other side.
Really?
Like holy. It's like you in your Pope outfit. You know, it's like.
Okay.
But it makes me wonder if there's like an association with like trauma and dicks, like because dicks can be used in a violent way.
That's interesting.
Like maybe you have some kind of association in your mind of like bad dicks.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind, and it's probably true, but it's like, I don't know what we're going in on this.
Let's go.
Every high school boyfriend, I don't know, I had 2 or 3 of them, or encounter, and post high school, they're all addicted to porn.
Yes.
Like to the point of where you're like, you're not okay.
Right.
And you're like, oh, that's kind of fucked up that this is how. So yeah, it's like the first encounters were like somebody struggling so deeply to just not be in their head, and then it's just you don't ever.
Yeah, like they're not physically present with you. They're like trying to perform in a way that they think they have to. But I was so incredibly blessed to have a boyfriend throughout high school and into college who was like very removed from that world.
Well, and that was your fucking saving grace.
He was the first person that I had sex with, and it wasn't like a gross, weird thing. And I was more addicted to porn than him.
Oh, shit.
Because when I was little, I feel like I was like 6 or 7 or something way too young. But like I saw my dad's porno mags.
Game over.
And like then I was addicted to boobs. And all I wanted to see was boobs all the time. And like, and my friends and I would just like get together and download porn off of Kazaa or Morpheus or LimeWire, like weird stuff that you shouldn't be looking at. And so I feel like it's so easy to like peer behind this curtain because you're not supposed to when you have access to it. And maybe like young people are watching. When we were little, the internet was just coming into like play.
Yeah, and
that
I'm sure we got the first wave of dudes
exactly
who were just like beating it into the ground, and you're like,
yeah,
y'all are casualties. Mass casualty situation.
I feel like we're all trying to grow beyond that now, because when we were very young, it was like so easy to see whatever you wanted to see, and like things that people shouldn't really be seeing.
I want to tell you about a world. I'm going to tell you about a world. You're not allowed to talk about the thing that creates you. You're not allowed to know about it unless attained through nefarious ways. Well, arguably, the most important aspect of humanism is reproduction, genitalia, sex, and sensuality. And you just gotta...
And it's taboo.
Figure it out.
Nobody's gonna tell you, like, what is happening
or
wonder
why everybody's being raped as a kid and rape is out of control and everybody's sexually abused. It's like, well, it seems really fucking obvious.
Well, you know who started this country, like, after they moved in and killed all the natives? They were the fucking Puritans.
Oh, the Quakers.
So it's like, when you make something illegal, when something is not to be talked about, and it's not polite to talk about, then, of course, it's like, goes back to the type of porn by region. Right. It's like, you go after that thing that you're not supposed to really, really hard. And one time I had this really vivid nightmare that
you were being slapped in the face with Quaker wieners.
No, it was like, it was so weird. I'm going to try and talk about it.
Okay.
So there was this train car that went through this weird warehouse, and there was this tree, and I don't know if anybody's ever seen The Walking Dead. There's a character named Michonne who has like a katana or something. She had a katana in my dream.
With the zombie brother or husband?
Perhaps. And she was there. She was killing jaguars, black jaguars, and hanging them in the tree in plastic bags for like food. And then there was also this like contingent of people who I didn't recognize, but they were they were like doing the most gory, disgusting, like sex mixed with like mutilation kind of things.
Yucky.
And it was like, it was because they had eaten this like specific kind of meat, and that's what Michonne was protecting against. She was like, this is the good stuff that we can eat and it won't destroy our minds, but these people have already consumed this weird meat, and that's why they're behaving this way.
Are you saying that the Puritans were right?
No. But I don't know what it means, but I remember vividly like looking down and seeing this train car pass and like looking into the train car, and it was like this like pulsating, disgusting, like people having sex but also like murdering each other, and it was so gory and awful.
You're describing dreams I had when I was pregnant. Like they just like over the top,
like
squirmy,
visceral, like
being
disgusting.
being shot into a maggot-filled petri dish, and everybody's sweaty, and Tool is playing.
Oh yeah, Tool Stinkfist is playing. I don't know, that dream has stuck with me. I remember waking up from it and I was fucking crying my eyes out. This had to have been years ago. Okay. But the visuals have stuck with me. It's crazy what your mind will come up with.
I will never forget the dreams that I had when I was pregnant. And I looked at Lucas one morning. I was staring at him, and he woke up, and I was like, I'm never going to bed.
Oh my God.
Because they were like that, like blood and gore and cut off genitals and upside down pyramids. And
whoa.
It's a sitar? There's another kind of big sword. It's
like
not a katan.
It's kind of curved.
Yeah.
I think it's called a scimitar.
Something. And I was like stuck in a pyramid filling up with water, and it was upside down, and I was cutting off all their heads.
Whoa.
And, yeah, like a bunch of transgender people on meat hooks like squirming.
Holy shit.
And they had like big smiles. Dude, everybody at Otoko would be like, dude, Whitney's almost here. Whitney's almost here. Woo! And I'm like, what? And they're like, okay, tell us about your dreams. Tell us about your dreams. And I'm like, God, you guys are so fucked up. Dude, Max.
Now who's got limp dick?
Max would be like, dude, I will never forget the dreams you had when you were pregnant. Like, because people were so excited to hear how fucked up they were.
That is wild. What is it? It's like the spirit like trying to go into the material, like the material's so dirty and profane, and then like you think the spirit is somehow above that, but it's like the two have to be one so we can be animated flesh bots. Like, what is it?
There is a side of the spectrum of our origin that is so fucking twisted. Like, it's just part of pleasure. Like, oh, you like a cheese? Well, you gotta look at this first. It's
the dairy industry.
I mean,
it involves a lot of rape.
Don't ever do LSD and watch Samsara. I made that horrific mistake. But
watch what?
Have you ever seen Samsara?
I don't know.
Oh, I don't think so. Shit. Your dick is about to be slapped like a Quaker. That's today's. Do you imagine how hard a Puritan would just smack your fucking boner? We're still feeling the effects 370 years later.
Like as a punishment or for pleasure?
Just to get it out of my face. I'm gonna cut a hole in the sheet to make a baby.
Oh my God.
Woo. Dude, Samsara will fuck you up.
Samsara, the word is like the cycle of suffering, right?
That's what this movie is. There are no words.
I'm bad at watching stuff
fucking words
like that.
There's one part where they show the machine that impregnates cows in the milking industry.
Oh, jeez.
It's a big rape machine, and you're like, oh, I'm just gonna buy local cheese.
Yeah,
I can't. Fuck you, Kemps, or Mootopia. It's bad.
Yeah,
that was the first time I saw one of those machines. The rape machine. But it's a beautiful movie.
Yeah,
but I think it made me
once
smarter.
You get past the rape. Well, I mean, that's the thing. You have to expose yourself to all these terrible things in order to learn, and
I remember like sitting in its glow at a hotel being like, why? Why did I do
Everything
this?
is so evil.
Maybe I have to witness suffering in order to get past it or something. I don't know why it always brings me there.
Yeah, I mean, that's wild. We have such a strong desire to consume milk and all its products.
I don't anymore. I don't. It's like cheese. I'm like a big local farmer.
Yeah. It's always better like that anyway.
It's better for you. I won't buy anything with rennet in it because that is just like...
Rennet is like the enzyme from the cow's stomach?
From the baby cow.
Oh, is it from a baby cow?
Yes. It's like when you start digging into that stuff and piercing the veil a little bit, you're like, I won't buy that.
Isn't that a common ingredient in most cheese making?
Yeah. I have to dig to find like a...
Yeah, I mean, consuming animals and consuming the products of animals' bodies, when you think about it, it used to just be convenient because people were growing animals and animal husbandry.
Well, and it used to be for survival, like you did have to utilize every part of the animal.
But now that our populations have boomed so much, the techniques that we employ to get such a scaled up level of those things is insidious.
Yeah, and it's just unnecessary. I don't know.
I mean, you gotta order pizza. You gotta make cheese for your pizza.
Cheese is something I will clutch as I die in my grave.
I
will
know.
never give that up as long as I live.
I love cheese so much. I mean, that's why I'm not a vegan.
They make it in caves. There's like, I've sometimes wanted to become a cheesemaker. I found out about a bunch of lady monks who make cheese. And I was like,
gotta go. I found my calling. I would love that.
It was either them or the Chinese engineers who are working on quantum computers that are trying to find God. I was like, Lucas, see you later. I gotta go.
Dude, we'd be such good nuns.
I know. I
think about it all the time.
I always practice that with the material aspect. People are like, how do you rent out your motorcycles? And I was like, crash it. I don't fucking care.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, like crash the Bronco. I don't fucking care.
See what happens.
I've enjoyed it.
We'll move on.
I will honor its lifespan. I don't care. I think people get so...
There's a lesson in attachment there. And like, you kind of have to acknowledge that chaos is the natural way of things. And once you realize that you really have no control over that and that it's inevitable that shit's going to fall apart, you feel more peace.
Also, now that I think about it, somebody dropped my bike. I was kind of pissed. Yeah. Well, I was just pissed that she wasn't a little bit more honest about
being able to handle
it. Yeah. I was like, just tell me. Just fucking tell me. I'll figure something out. And I was like, whatever. Just get a new case. I get a check in the mail for over $900.
Yo.
And I was like, oh, is that because I don't care about it? That like,
Yeah, there's something there.
I was like, oh, it's $100 to replace it,
Yeah.
Okay.
Attachment, control. Control is something to relinquish. It feels much better when you realize... I mean, I think that it is important to feel empowered to enact the change that you want to see, but ultimately to realize that things are going to go how they go and that you should adjust to how they go.
I remember in therapy I was struggling really deeply. I don't remember exactly what it was, but my therapist was like, did you ever hear about I always pronounce this wrong, the parable? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, it's a parable.
About how the Buddhist monk, fucking physically disarmed and harmed the guy that, it's like, oh, I thought being spiritual was just not enacting pain or suffering. And she's like, no. And cited these references. It's like being empowered and you still have to be in this realm. It's not about, oh, this is great, just shit on me.
This is the nasty cruelty realm that we live in.
It's about it's about constructing boundaries in a way that makes sense and not being attached. And if somebody harms you, you don't let them keep harming you. That's not a part of it.
No way.
Yeah.
No doormats, please.
Yeah. In an emotional sense, in a physical sense, you don't get to do that.
Yeah. I feel like I've been a doormat.
The UFOs here
for most of my life. Sorry, my grandfather Sven, he's an alien and he's here to pick us up.
I remember something I wanted to talk about and I didn't look into it.
Let's hit it.
A bunch of people died in it may have been Korea or Vietnam, of a bunch of followers of a poop eating cult.
Oh.
Turns out you can't just like eat poop.
No, it's got bacteria in it. You can't eat poop because it's your body getting rid of waste.
I was like, and
like it's waste for a reason, right? Like, what is that movie, Human Centipede?
I think they worshipped this leader so much that they started eating his shit, which is weird. I mean,
which is such a good analogy.
Yeah.
Like,
you
listen to the bullshit he says and you take it in, but you also physically, literally eat his shit.
I think when I read something like that, I wonder if there was a demon from another dimension or another planet that just like squirmed its way in here and was just like embodied all those followers. You know, like they're not people anymore if you're doing that. If you're eating someone's shit.
There's something about mind control, like taking somebody's volition and their autonomy and just like convincing them completely that what you say is right. Like, holy shit. I never want to lose my own sense of what is right and my own rationality, you know?
Next time I got a poop eating cult, I gotta remember to bring you guys the bits about that because I was deeply curious.
I'm deeply disturbed. I have heard of women like tasting their baby's poop to make sure they're getting the right nutrients or something. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Huh.
I'm sure like baby shit is so its own thing.
Yeah.
It's not like gross trucker peanut shit. Where you're like, you, sir, have colon cancer. Baby shit's like, it's like Play-Doh.
Play with the poop.
Speaking of playing with poop, that's it.
Scat. You can just scat us out.
I was about to say poop in the shark.
Wow.
I wish I could scat about scat.
Yeah, I think scat, the jazz vocal technique is pretty cool, and you have to be talented to do it right. And I don't claim to have any of those powers.
I saw a brief clip of Eminem rehearsing someone else's verse that he was like talking about how good it was, and I was like, that is a fucking he is insanely talented when it comes to, obviously he is a bajillionaire because of it, but it's like the fact that you're like, oh yeah, and then he was just like, and then taps into it and like says the verse really fast.
Yeah,
it's like those people they have a direct line into that part.
I listened to an Eminem song the other day.
And you couldn't believe the shit he was saying. I was like, oh my God, that was such a different time.
It's a really hateful song about his wife. It's called Kim.
Yeah.
And I started to like say all the words along with it, but it was so hateful and so painful. I had to turn it off. I was like, why did I listen to this when I was a teenager? This is so detrimental to my spirit. To like embody someone else's like extremely vehement hate. Like that's not even my burden to bear, but like that's what I want to listen to.
But thousands of people dressed up like him and showed up at the MTV Awards because they all shared. We were talking about nu metal yesterday. We talk about nu metal every day. And Fred Durst and that whole thing.
Knees weak, arms are heavy.
Fred Durst and Eminem. And that was male hate, like, and male rage, which I'm sure ebbs and flows in many different forms throughout the entire history of man. But in the early 2000s, it was a backwards red hat. Like that was the modern way to
like
do
a
it.
chump. Hey, like a chump.
I mean, they were picking up on something that a lot of people were feeling,
It's hard to be a man.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be a man. Sometimes I think it would be fun to be able to like ramble around the country by myself
and not worry about somebody
wanting to rape me.
Yes.
Which I'm sure still happens to men. I'm sorry if I made a gross generalization, but yeah, that autonomy, like people just like kind of trust that you know what you're doing, as opposed to when you come from a feminine spot, people are like, do you want me to do it for you? Do you want me to take care of that? Like, is it gonna, you got it?
Lucas and I talk about that because he pulled all of his, like, I guess, masculine motivation from his older sister's boyfriends.
Yeah.
Because his father just, like, I'm sure a lot of fathers are just out of touch. They're not like, they're making sure the house is paid for and you have food on the fucking table and I have to fucking go to work. And I totally get that. But there's like a whole other half of your children's emotional well-being and like, but you don't have time for it, A lot of people don't.
Well, yeah, how many kids do they have, his parents?
3.
That's quite a lot of people to manage.
Well, and he had to work out of state a lot because back then it was harder to be a nurse, which is crazy to think about. But we were talking about, as he walks in the door, he threw stink bombs. He bought stink bombs from the ice cream man and then threw them back into the ice cream truck. And then the ice cream man never came to his neighborhood ever again. I was like, oh man, if I was your mom, I would have beat your fucking ass.
That is so messed up.
Well, it's like funny, but also like, poor fucking ice cream man.
Yeah. He was like, yeah, kid, I'll get you some stink bombs.
I was like, what would you have done if you were your dad? And he's like, I would have put myself in karate. And because you need that, full circle as we end. Like you need, I wish I was deep in just anything,
Definitely.
any hobby when I was a teenager, but you just don't fucking know. And your parents just let you do whatever. And
yes, our parents definitely. I think my mom and dad were like, do you want to do anything? And I was like, I would rather do nothing, please.
And then they're like, okay, that sounds great.
That's cool.
They honor that. There isn't like a little bit more of this is where we need elders to kind of step in and
it's like, well, I actually know a little bit better than you and I'm gonna make you learn the piano. And
if you hate it, let's try something else.
I also was thinking this earlier, that you and I have a sort of heightened intuition sense, and I think it's because we grew up in the way that we did. My uncle Steve put this to me once, years and years and years ago. He was like, you can sort of tell how people are going to behave because that's the way that you've had to navigate the world. You have to kind of infer and like intuit.
I got so much street smarts from that too, and I was thinking about that. I was like, man, when I was growing up, I had a lot of street smarts. And I was like, I don't know how to make sure Ruby gets that. I mean, do we just go to the streets together? And like, you just like say, okay, let's go over here. It's like, how do I do that without?
I mean, that's a huge challenge. It's like you want your kid to have the best of everything, but also you can't really grow without struggling.
I know. I mean, maybe that's like one of those tribal things where you're like, okay, go off into the woods.
I hope you make it
back. See you
back
in 3 days. And then just as a mom, just climb into some sort of artificial womb.
Wish I could help you work through that. I'll just be whatever emotional support you need at any time.
I'll put her on a nice little city bus route that's real small. The little helicopter, and then she won't learn anything.
I guess we'll find out.
Anyways, I'm gonna set us up a little buy us a coffee account, and then I don't know if you feel like it or don't, and then we'll buy new microphones, or we'll buy whatever note you attach to it, and then we'll I don't know.
Like
fuck around
hula
with
hoops
it.
or
Yeah.
what? Okay. Thanks for listening in.
Thanks,
Remember,
guys.
don't move about the world in fear. But be aware. Use your awareness to empower yourself, right?
The more you know.
The more you know, the more you notice.
Hey, Megan.
Hey.
It's pizza time.
Let's eat pizza. Fuck you.